Hello everyone, welcome back to our live class. I'm really happy to see you all here again. Today we are diving into a very important chapter from mass communication, chapter 3, models of mass communication. Well, let's break it down into five simple parts. Today we will be discussing about the introduction, the linear model, the list, the two-way model list, and we will be explaining the linear models with explanations with detailed examples and the explanation of two-way model with examples as well. Further, we will be talking about the chronology of mass communication. So, let's get started. As you guys can see, the chronology of mass communication, the first mass communication model is Aristotle model, that is before 300 BC 4th to 4th century BC. Now it's linear model, it's the kind of Aristotle model. So from the exam point of view, the direct question are being asked from the chronology as well. Aristotle model, it's before 300 BC. Lasswell's model of communication, 1948, Harold Lasswell, it is linear model. Shannon and Weaver model in 1949 made by Shannon and Weaver, it's also linear model, followed with the triangulation or ABX model. In 1953, Theodore Newcomb, it is also known as social equilibrium model, and the Osgood-Scram model is 1954, followed by Charles Osgood and Wilbur Scram, and the interaction, or it is known as circular model. Then in 1955 we have Johari window, it is Joseph Luft and Haddington Ingham, that is the psychological model. Then we have Gardner's model of communication in 1956, that is George Gardner. Then we have Wesley and Maclean's model in 1957 given by Wesley and Maclean, the interactive model, it is also known as the interpersonal mass communication model. Then what we have relay and relay model, it's in 1959, and the relay and relay model is a sociological model. Then we have the famous SMCR model, which is given by David Barlow in 1960, which is also known as linear model. Then we have Roman Jakobson's model, it's in 1960. It is also in 1960 by Roman Jakobson. This model is known as linguistic model. Then what we have Milsky's model, which is in 1963 by Gerhard Milsky. It is a behavioristic or transactional model. Then we have helical model in 1967, which is proposed by Frank Duns. After that, we have mosaic model of 1968 by Sam Beerser. It's transactional model. Then we have diffuser model of communication in 1970. Melvin Diffluer interactive model, followed with the transactional model of 1970, and Devotee's interactive model in 2003, and the last is Sadharanikaran model in 2003. So this is the chronology of model. Direct questions is being asked from the chronology. The dates are asked and we have to identify the name of the model. So to put it simple, Aristotle model 300 BC, then Lasswell 1948, Shannon Weaver 1949, triangulation 1953, Osgood 1954. After 1 year we have 1955 Johari window, Gardner model in 1956, Wesley and Maclean's model is 1957, relay 59. In 1960 we have two, one is SMCR and one is Roman Jakobson model. In 1960 after 3 years we have Milsky's model. After 1963 we have 1967 the helical model, following with the mosaic model of 1968, Diffluer model of 1970, and the transactional model, which is also in 1970, and the Devotee's interactive model in 2003, followed with the Sadharanikaran model in 2003. Now let's break it simply. So what we will be understanding right now is the linear model. So what is linear model? First of all, let me adjust my screen. Okay, is it visible? Yes, it is. Now what we are saying that, what is linear model? Now before digging deeper into linear model, we can say that, what do you mean by models of communication? Think of model as maps or diagrams. Model is nothing but, you can think of it as a maps or diagrams that helps us understand how communication works. Just like road maps helps us reach our destination, the Google map we use to reach our destination, these are the result of research different research made by the propagandist, made by the Aristotle, made by the Lasswell, Harold de Lasswell. So this is nothing but communication model. Consider it as a roadmap that helps us reach our destination. This model helps us understand how a message is sent, received, and interpreted. They simplify the process of communication that we can understand who is speaking, who is listening, what the message is, and whether it is one way or two way. Here it comes. Linear model, is it one way or two way? There are many communication models, but we group them mainly into two types. One is linear model and another one is two-way models. Now let's first look at some linear models. This one-way communication model where feedback is not present. The message goes from the sender to the receiver without feedback. Some important linear models are Aristotle model, Shannon-Weaver's model, Lasswell's model, and David Berlow's famous SMCR model. In all this case, the key thing to remember is the sender sends a message and that's it. No reply or feedback is expected. Now let's move on to two-way models. I am just giving you a brief description about one-way and two-way, about the linear and two-way. Then we will be having a brief discussion among the important models. Alright, so two-way model states that, what states two-way model? Where communication is interactive, meaning both sender and receiver can exchange roles. Examples of two-way models are Osgood and Scram's model, Wilbur-Scram's model, transactional model. These models includes feedback. To put it simple, the model which includes feedback is known as two-way model. Alright, so which makes communication more realistic, especially in daily conversations. Alright, now linear models with example we can see Aristotle's model. It is the ancient but powerful oldest model created around 300 BC. Here three elements: the speaker, the speech, and the audience. A politician, suppose giving a speech to a public listens but doesn't respond directly. So this model is still relevant in today's scenario, in today's world. So no point thinking that the communication is increasing, we are having augmented reality, we are having interpretative journalism, but that doesn't mean Aristotle's model is obsolete. It cannot be obsoleted in today's scenario as well. How it is present, how it is important, because a politician giving a speech to a public, the public interest doesn't respond directly. The next we have Shannon-Weaver's model, which is also known as the telephone model. Alright, Shannon-Weaver models from exam perspective, we have this Shannon-Weaver's model. As you guys can see, it is also known as mathematical model or information model of communication. What it is developed for electronic communication. This model was actually first developed for electronic communication, where we can see the sender, the encoder, the channel, the decoder, the receiver. And one important thing in Shannon and Weaver's model is the concept of noise. Shannon and Weaver has divided the concept of noise into three parts: level A, level B, and level C. Level A means the channel noise, level B means the semantic noise, and level C means the effective noise. As far as level A is concerned, channel noise means the problem in transmitting the message. Semantic noise means the problem in understanding the message, because words spoken are always misunderstood. And the third noise is the effective noise, which is the feedback, the effect. Alright, so noise is anything that is the disturbance during communication. Example, you are talking over a phone, but there's a static noise or call drops. Linear models are helpful when the message needs to be delivered clearly without expecting a reply. Alright, so as far as Shannon and Weaver model is concerned, we can say that the entropy means the problem, the redundancy is the opposite of entropy, which means highly predictable. Now let's move a little deeper into Schramm and Osgood's model. Alright, in Schramm's and first of all I am discussing the most important models. In Schramm and Osgood model, what we can see is that, just a minute. In Shams, here I got it. Sham and Osgood model, as you guys can see, I think it's visible. In Sham and Osgood model, what we can see is that it's a common field of experience. They are talking about a common field of experience. Suppose there is a source, there is an encoder, there is a signal, and it's overlapping a common field of experience. And again we are having a decoder, a destination. That means this model is the upgraded version of the previous research works. All right. So in Sham and Osgood model, it shows that sender and receiver takes turns. Communication, as we know, is a continuous process. Example, WhatsApp chat. You send a message, your friend replies. This is synchronous communication. This comes a separate aspect of communication, synchronous and asynchronous communication. But in a layman's language, what we can see that it shows the sender and receivers taking in turn. It's a circular model of communication, where important part is that it's the field of experience, the semantic difference. Osgood has stated this one. And the semantic barriers, they are talking about the semantic barriers, which is the background, the brief experience, and the values. In this particular model, what we can see is the message, then we have the decoder, the interpreter, and the encoder, and which is organizing, or which is being communicated in a circular process. Now next what we have Scram's model with field of experience. As I have discussed, it is nothing but the idea that both sender and receiver needs a shared field of experience, right? Because other than a shared field of experience, the communication won't take place for effective communication. Example, if I say IPL final, you will understand only if you know what cricket is. That means for a effective communication, there must be a common field of experience. If you don't know ABC of share market, then talking about share market, it won't help. It won't be an effective communication. So this thing was studied under the research work of Sham and Osgood. It is also known as the field of experience. Now, so we today covered the meaning of communication model, linear. Here I am talking about this is so you guys tell me, is it linear or is it two-way? Obviously it's two-way model, because there is a way for feedback. It's circulating between the sender and the receiver of the message. So we know, by now we know the meaning of communication models, the linear versus two-way models, and the example real life connections. Right. So as we have discussed this particular model, one-way model and two-way model, what we have now, we will have a brief description about this each and every model now. First of all, linear model, the Asian model, the oldest model we can say is the Aristotle's model of communication, where there is a speaker, there is a speech, there is an audience, and there is effect. So all this effect, it can be understood through LEP, that means lithos, ethos, and pathos. Lithos means logic, communicating with a logic. Ethos means communicating with credibility, and pathos means with emotion. And the important keywords of Aristotle model is the rhetoric model of communication. It's SSOAE, the speaker, the speech, the occasion, the effect, and the audience. They are the vital important part. Now what we have edema. Edema is the rhetoric 5 stage of Aristotle's model of communication, where inventio, dispositio, illocitio, memoria, and actio are being implemented. Now we have a direct model, hypodermic needle theory, which is very much important from examination point of view, which states that hypodermic, the media, how the media is injecting their message to the audience, to the target group. So this particular concept, hypodermic needle theory, can be divided into two parts, as you can see. One is the direct effect and another one is the indirect effect. It was proposed in 1938 to 1940, because the exact date is not known, because this is a research work, and research work takes longer period than we expect. It might be a longitudinal study, right? So hypodermic, the other name of hypodermic syringe model is the transmission belt model, the TBM, or it is also known as, famously it is known as the magic bullet theory. Now the magic bullet theory or the hypodermic needle theory can be divided into two aspects, that is the direct effect and the indirect effect. The effect of the audience are being taking place in this particular portion. Harold D. Lasswell stated the one-step flow theory, whereas Paul Lazarsfeld stated two-step flow theory. Hypodermic needle theory was countered by limited effect theory. In 1927, Pavlov's experiment stimulus response theory, where the dog feeds the food and bell theory was implemented. Now, Harold D. Lasswell in 1927 in a book Propaganda Technique in World War One, that there comes the information, there comes the part, there comes the theory of direct effect, how media is affecting the audience directly. Next we have Lasswell's model of communication. It is also known as the political communication model, where it has been said that who says what in which channel to whom with what effect. Who means who is saying the word, that matters. What they are saying, in which channel they are saying, to whom they are saying, and with what effect they are saying, which makes difference, right? So who means we are analyzing the content. Says what means we are also analyzing the content. In which medium is the research of the media analysis part. To whom means we are targeting the audience and we are having a brief research on the audience analysis. After that we have what effect. Effect can be cognitive, can be effective, can be behavioral. Cognitive, effective, behavioral, the short form of the effective analysis is CAB. All right, so we have discussed about mathematical model, the general system theory, which is very important from examination point of view. What we can see over here is in 1948, back in 1948, Ludwig von Winterlandfleet. It's a complex process, because every process is complex until we make it easy. All right, Karl Popper once said that every theory holds true until it is falsified. Suppose you are stating a theory which for you is true, which for the world is true, but some other theory, some other researchers might prove it and false it at any time. Hence, it is a famous saying that every theory holds true until it is falsified. Now, subsystem theory, in every system can be divided into two parts. Whatever be the system, whatever be the context, every context can be divided into two parts. First part is the subsystem, which is open. That means the feedbacks are welcome, the feedback are expected. And another part is the closed. That means feedbacks are not accepted. All right. Then what we have cybernetics by Norbert Wiener. Cybernetic theory, in today's world, cybernetics is very much important. Why? Because in this digital world, cybernetics is nothing but the control and communication with the machines and the animals. One thing must be clear, we are social animals, right? So this is the theory, this is the identification mark between the animals and machines. Science concerned with the study of a system and any nature which are capable of receiving, storing and processing information. Suppose input equals to output equals to processing communication. Suppose I am having a debit card. All right, so the moment I am inserting my debit card to the ATM, and at that point of time I have to enter my password or the pass key. The moment I have entered my pass key, the cybernetics theory will start working. My debit card's information, the chip of my debit card holds the information of my account details only. There is no room for others, there is no cross connection, there is no wrong number, because these theories, these metadata are saved by the theory of cybernetics. And who coined this term cybernetics? It was coined by Norbert Wiener back in 1948. So there is 5 components of universal model of communication by Ruchel Bettercourt. The 5 steps are sender and receiver, the medium which the message carries, the context, the contextual factors, the message as well as the feedback. Now we are moving on to the two-step flow theory. The two-step flow theory means the opinion leader. Every aspect holds two-step flow theory. Suppose you want to purchase a mobile phone, but you have little knowledge about mobile phones, so you will be referring someone, you will be asking suggestions from a friend, those who are well aware of the latest technologies and all. Then at that point of time, he or she will be your opinion leader. And remember one thing, a opinion leader in context A might be a opinion seeker in context B. That particular individual might have enough knowledge in mobile phones, but it might happen that particular individual is not at all aware of other aspects like electricity, other aspects he or she is not, because no one is master of all trade, right? So we tend to change our opinion leaders. This concept, the two-step flow theory, how message is being decimated, is given by Kurtz and Lazarsfield's model, that is one-way two-step flow theory. The source, the message, the medium, in between, as you guys can see in green, it is written opinion leader. So the basic model of communication, there is always advancement, there is always room and scope for advancement of the research works. So it has been stated that the source, the message, the mass media following with the opinion leader and the public. Then what we have next, we have the gatekeeping model of communication, which is very much important, because suppose this is the news, N is the news, and this is a particular gate. There is, in today's world, there are hundreds and thousands of news covering up, and what is important is determined by the editorial team. They filter the news, right? So gatekeeping theory is nothing but the filtration of news. This is the mass and this is the newses. Not every news is being accepted by the house. So this is the great gatekeeping model of communication. It was given by David Manning White. Back in 1950, David Manning White, the social psychologist, German. He was a German scholar. So this is a psychological concept. After that, what we have the Gardner's model of communication. This is also very important from examination point of view. Back in 1957, we had Gardner's model of communication. It is same as mathematical model. The horizontal dimension, the vertical dimension, the meta control, the access model. After that, we have a famous model which is known as SMCR model. SMCR model. What is SMCR? SMCR means the source, the message, the channel, as well as the receiver. SMCR. Now the source, David Berlow. If we consider the history of this model, we will be knowing that it was proposed in the year 1960 by David Berlow, which is also known as where encode and decode was introduced for the first time. Now source, message, channel, receiver. Source, how the messages are coming, from which source the messages are coming. So it can be the communication. Under source, we have briefly categorized the communication skills, the attitudes, the knowledge, the culture, the social system is the source of any message. Any message source comes from knowledge, right? Any message, any source of a message comes from the communication skills, comes from the attitude of the sender, and as well as comes from the culture of the sender. And the source is being encoded following with the message. The message are the context, the elements, the treatment, the structure, and the code. Then via signs and symbols, and with the help of channel, we disseminate the message by hearing, by seeing, by touching, by smelling and tasting. After that, the receiver tries to decode the encoded message. How they decode? They decode by communication skills. If suppose, for example, individual B is having a poor communication skill, then it will be very much difficult for that particular individual to receive the effective message. What the sender is trying to convince, what the sender is trying to crafting the message, what the sender has encoded might not be received properly by the receiver. Here comes the term noise. As we have discussed, level A, level B and level C noise. But as far as receiver is concerned, we can say receiver can be divided into the communication skills, the attitudes, the knowledge, the social system, as well as the culture. Now next we have the Newcomb's model of communication. Newcomb's model of communication means it's an approach to study communication acts. Every message and every medium, the message, that what the sender is crafting and what the receiver is getting is considered out of a third perspective, the X factor. Suppose the context factor, all right, the topic, what topic we are talking about, As given the example, suppose an individual doesn't know the ABC about stock market, and if I say him that mutual fund, the large cap fund, small cap fund, the intraday trading and whatnot, then it will be out of context for that particular receiver. So as a communicator, it's our role and responsibility to communicate effectively. Here comes the 7 C's of communication: clear, correct, complete, concrete, considerate, courteous and courageous. Now this in this particular section, this the context part was proposed by Newcomb's model back in 1953. All right, so these are the conclusion, these are the report of a research work. In 1953 they have suggested us that how communication works. And it's the, as far as triangular model is concerned, if you've been asked that what is the triangular model or what is ABX system, then we will be answering that Theodore M. Newcomb's model of communication. This is also social equilibrium. That means while communicating there must remain a social equilibrium. And we have discussed the two-way model earlier. Now we will be talking about transactional model of communication. All right, so transaction means something is giving, exchange. Transaction means nothing but exchange. It was given by Dean Borland in the year 1970. This is the exchange of message between sender and receiver. It is actually a multi-layer feedback system. The moment we communicate, we expect that the feedback must be there. So this is two-way. This is non-linear. All right, where feedback are welcome. Now the transactional model of communication is that the style, the dress, the action, the transaction of culture also comes on transactional model of communication. Suppose our Indian culture states that if you greet someone, you cross your hand and you say namaste. So that is the transaction of culture. Now what can be transaction? Transaction, the exchange of culture comes under transactional communication. Transaction doesn't always means that transacting a transaction of banking transaction is not only transaction. Transaction of culture, it's a multi-layered feedback system where ego is being translated, where we transact ego, where we transact adult ego, child ego, parents ego. Now we have social context, we have cultural context, and we have relational context and friend and stranger context. All of these are multi-layered feedback system. Suppose what uniform or what dress you are wearing, which color you are wearing, it also transacts information about your personality, right? Now what next we will be studying today, that is the Roman Jakobson's model of communication, which is also very important communication styles, where we have 6 elements. Back in 1960 it was given by Roman Jakobson, and the model name is pretty much simple: Roman Jakobson's model of communication, where there is 5 stages of communication. To be precise, there are 6 stages of communication. Number 1, the addresser, that means the emotive function, the message, the poetic functions, the context, the referential functions, how the message is being disseminated. Then we have the addressee, the connotative function. Then we have a fatigue functions, that means the ice breaking stage. Then what we have the code or metalingual functions. We have denotive, same for all, denotive functions and connotative functions. Denotive means if I am talking about a leaf, it is a leaf for all. But the connotative function means the message that gets affected. That is, things spoken are always misunderstood, right? We must not ignore the importance of context while communicating. Now Wesley and Maclean's model of communication, back in 1957 they adopted this model, where Bruce Wesley and Malcolm S. Maclean Jr. adopted Newcomb's model. So further they worked together and they did the research works for the betterment of the society, where fast feedback in prior to this model we had feedback system, but here it was introduced the point of difference, and it's the fast feedback system. All right, now we have DeFleur model of communication. It is also known as rectangular model of communication. Today's mass communication model, relay model of communication in the year 1959, which we must understand that John W. and Matilda White Relay developed sociological model of communication. Sociological view and sociological context of mass communication. Every individual is average of 5 close group. Your personality is the average of 5 close people whom you are meeting, whom you are sharing your thoughts and emotions on a daily basis. So this research work states that relay and relay model of communication, John W and Matilda White relay, that's it's a sociological view, it's a context of mass communication where every individual is considered as the average of 5 close group. Now we have helical model of communication. It is also known as Frank Dance model of communication. It's a time reference model. With time we uncover things, right? So I can give you one example. Before we start anything, things looks like this big stuff. After during the task, it becomes this much easier. The whole mass is getting lesser, the pressure is getting lesser, this diminishing. Now after a while the same things looks like this, it's a play for that particular individual. So this is helical model of communication. Helical model of communication states that with time knowledge gets uplifted, with time we acquire more knowledge and things become easier for us to conduct. That's the beauty of experience, right? Now what we will be talking about, we will be talking about the devotees interactive model, which is a recent model which came in 2003, though it's not recent, but as far as other models are concerned, back in 1957, back in 300 BC, this is pretty recent model where Joseph Devotee stated that the information processing of a model, so this is the better version, this is the upgraded version, the continuation of the research work from the information processing model of 1960s. It is redeveloped where we are saying that sender receiver message or channel, the code, the encoder and decoder, the context, the feedback and noise was also being introduced in this particular section. Now what we have last, we have the Greyherz-Meltz model of communication. It is a German researcher in 1963. The book The Psychology of Mass Communication inspired from Harold D. Lasswell. Alright, it has been inspired from Harold D. Lasswell and they are stating that sender, Lasswell term coined the term sender, message receiver, whereas Matsky coined the term, it's not sender, it's the communicator. So this is the basic difference, and the communicator is communicating the message and the receiver is decoding the message for every individual. So this was it with the models of communication. Tomorrow we will be studying about the theories. So thank you for connecting at Ease Know Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease.